Have you ever seen a social studies teacher that isn't a coach? Every single one of them. Every single one. I promise. Hi, I'm Martha. I'm a middle school teacher, and I also partner with 240 to help teachers pass their certification exams. This video is going to prepare you for the Praxis Middle School Social Studies test. That's exam code number 5089. And this video is going to cover 3 things: what's on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts that will be on the test, and we're going to look at a few practice questions. There is a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Now, the Praxis Middle School Social Studies is broken into 6 content categories: United States history, world history, government and civics, geography, economics, and short content essays. Now, these seem pretty simple, but entire college courses are taught on each of them, and the test specifications within each category are pretty broad. That means it can be really tough to narrow down just what they might ask, but don't worry, that's where I come in. We'll break down each of these categories here in a minute and also dive into key concepts that are essential to know for your test. But first, let's talk about how much each of these categories count toward your total score. Category 1 accounts for 19% of the exam, which is about 22 SRQs. An SRQ is a selected response question. This basically means multiple choice. Category 2 makes up 15% of the exam, which is around 18 SRQs. Categories 3 and 4 both account for 14% of the exam, which is approximately 17 SRQs each. And Category 5 totals 13% of the exam, which comes out to about 16 SRQs. Now, Category 6 is a little different. It accounts for 25% of the exam and is comprised of 3 CRQs. A CRQ is a constructed response question, which is like an essay. For this exam, you'll write 3 short content essays related to the first 5 categories. We'll go over these in more detail, as well as providing tips for tackling them after we go through categories 1 through 5. Let's get started on that, shall we? First up, Category 1. Category 1 covers United States history. This includes chronological developments spanning from colonization to the American Revolution, to the Civil War and Reconstruction, to the Great Depression, to the Cold War, and lots of other events in between. The category also covers major themes in U.S. history, like impacts of racial and gender divisions, how participants in the political process shaped policy, the U.S. as a world power, economic transformations, patterns of immigration, to name a few. Now, you might be thinking, like any other social studies teacher, time out, that's a lot. And you're not wrong, coach, but not to worry. We have this all covered in our 240 study guide. And right now, I'm going to tell you about a concept that you must know for this category: manifest destiny. This is the idea that it was the United States' destiny to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, and it fueled Western expansion in the 19th century. America was mostly created from 4 major acquisitions: the original 13 colonies, the Louisiana Purchase, the fallout of the Mexican-American War, and the Oregon Territory. This new land led to increased economic growth in ranching, farming, and mining. And that, in a nutshell, is how America claimed a country from sea to shining sea. Of course, there's a lot more to it and plenty of important details to know to prepare for your exam, and you can find them in the study guide. The link is below. All right, let's keep thinking about history, but now let's expand the scope from the US to the whole world. Category 2 is all about world history. Just like in Category 1, you'll need to know about chronological developments and major themes, but this time for the whole world. So basically, everything that's ever happened in every part of the world from 8000 BCE to present day. Sorry, I'm just looking for the best meme that says panic ensues. Seriously though, no need to panic. 240 is here to help. Our study guides are full of instructional content, flashcards, and practice questions all aligned to your exam standards. We've taken the guesswork out of what should I study and built a comprehensive study guide to give you the confidence you need to pass your exam. Oh, and did I mention our study guides have videos? Let's take a look at one now. This is about the causes and effects of World War I, an essential topic to know about for the world history category of your exam.
1, including militarism, where countries build up their armed forces, alliances or agreements developed between countries, imperialism, where one country takes over another area, and nationalism, which is a strong devotion to one's own country. These worked together to create a power keg of Europe, primed for war to break out. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife on June 28, 1914, is considered the event that sparked the outbreak of World War I. The Austrian government blamed Serbia for the assassination of this heir to the throne and declared war on Serbia. Russia was quickly drawn in, then Germany, and then a full-scale domino effect of war declarations in July and August. Eventually, the fighting involved a number of countries. The Allied powers of World War I included Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, Romania, Japan, and the United States. The Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. The US had a long-standing attitude of isolationism and did not want to get involved in European affairs. However, it officially entered the war on April 6, 1917, in response to the German U-boat sinking of American ships. This 5-year war was the first war considered to be global because so many countries were involved. Fighting was not only in Europe, but also some Pacific Islands, Asia, the South Atlantic, the Middle East, and even Africa. The name World War was appropriate since it truly involved many nations of the world. A prominent form of warfare in World War I was what is known as trench warfare, in which troops lived in thousands of miles of trenches dug into the ground for shelter, protection from chemical attacks, and covert military movements.
Not bad. We're conquering this stuff like Genghis Khan. Genghis? Not Genghis. Genghis. It's not Jenga. Anyway, category 3. This is where you'll find your questions about government and civics. You'll need to know about the United States government and its key concepts such as popular sovereignty, federalism, and the structure and functions of the 3 branches, just to name a few, along with knowing about comparative government and international relations. Let's discuss some of those different forms of government now. This is a must-know for this portion of your exam. The forms of government implemented across the globe are varied. Each type presents its own unique characteristics related to citizens' rights and the nation's responsibility to those citizens. Government power either lies within one individual, a small group of people, many people, or no one. Let's dig into governments ruled by a few. These are known as oligarchies. The small groups with power in oligarchies often benefit or have privileges the rest of the citizens do not. A theocracy is a government operated under divine rule by religious leaders. An aristocracy is a form of government in which the nobility or highest class of society have power and control. You can hear about the rest in the study guide, but let's make our way down to our next category. Gotta cover geography on this middle school social studies exam. You'll need to demonstrate geographic literacy, which covers understanding relative and absolute location and identifying regions, map skills, which involve understanding latitude and longitude and interpreting different types of maps, physical geography, which gets into a lot of things, including Earth's physical features, physical processes, climate, and natural resources, and human geography, which covers culture, population, and patterns of land use. Expect to answer questions related to the big question, how does the geography of the Earth affect human behavior? I know, that doesn't really narrow things down. Let me try and break it down more clearly. Simply put, humans respond to their environments. They might even move because of it. Here's an example. Before 1900, nearly every city founded was located near some sort of water source, whether it be the ocean or a river. So why water? 1, humans need fresh water to drink, and 2, water was the easiest and most efficient form of transportation. Gotta be able to move goods in and out of the city. And water is just one example of how humans adapted their behavior to respond to their environment. Another thing you need to know, the causes of human migration. Specifically, there are 4 main reasons humans move: food and water, protection, freedom, and better socioeconomic situations. So to tie this into a neat little bow, you'll need to know both where physical features are on a map and how this affects humans and their behavior. All right, we are down to one category from our SRQ section. This one is worth the smallest percentage of your exam, but those 16 SRQs are still important. Plus, this content will help you prepare to write your CRQs, as we'll see in just a bit. Category 5 is all about economics. The test specifications cover both microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of individuals and their economic decisions. It focuses on why people make the choices they do. For example, why someone chooses to buy a pair of shoes or why a store decides to sell only pink roses are questions that fall into the category of microeconomics. Macroeconomics is the design and function of the economy as a whole. It's focused on the institutions, policies, and outcomes of large-scale economies, such as those of regional, national, or global governments and organizations. Now that's a lot to know about. For now, let's dig into some of the most important economic concepts to know for your exam: scarcity and opportunity cost. Scarcity means that in this world we live in, things are not unlimited, so people have to make choices based on their priorities to get what they want, because they can't have everything. Womp womp. Next up, opportunity cost. This really just means that the cost of an event or an action is the next best foregone alternative. Okay, it sounds really fancy, but what it really means is not how much money an action or an event costs someone, but rather what else would they do with that time or that money. And if you want to make sure you're prepared to pass your Praxis Middle School Social Studies exam, I have a great opportunity for you in the link below. Just saying. And those are the big things to know from the first 5 categories. Are you ready to get into those short content essays now? No, come back. You have to. It's important. There are 3 short essay questions on the Middle School Social Studies exam. We estimate that you'll spend about 30 minutes on the CRQ section, so aim to spend about 10 minutes on each individual question. Each question will include some information. This could be a quotation, image, map, or chart. Then you will be given 2 tasks to respond to related to the given information. The tasks will require you to interpret the given information or materials, draw inferences from them, and/or explain their historical, geographical, political, or economic significance. So you're probably wondering what exactly the questions are going to ask about. And the answer is, there are a ton of possibilities. But the good news is the topics these questions will fall under are the same ones you've already studied for the multiple choice section, so you're already prepared. One of your essays will definitely be about U.S. history relating to government or civics. One question will fall under world history that has to do with geography. And a third question will be about U.S. or world history relating to economics, or geography, or government civics. So, as you know by now, pretty much anything significant that has ever happened. But don't fear, I have a sample question we'll go over together so you know what you're dealing with. So, here's our question. It gives us pictures of the Declaration of Independence and the 2 treatises of government, and asks us 2 things. A, describe the relationship between the 2 documents above and summarize the relevant concepts of both. And B, these 2 documents illustrate the ideals of a philosophical movement. Identify the movement and explain the relationship of these documents to the central ideals of the broader movement. It's crucial that you read the question carefully and break down everything it's asking you to do. Notice that each part is really asking us to do 2 things. Look for words such as identify, describe, summarize, or list to help you determine what the question is asking you to do. Now that we understand what we need to do, it's time to write our response. You can get straight to the point. No need for an introduction or conclusion. Here's a model response. You can pause to read it, but this would score highly because it fully answers all parts of the question and demonstrates relevant, specific subject matter knowledge. So that was one example of what you might see on a short content essay, but check out the 240 study guide for more sample prompts and responses. Now that we've gone over some of the big concepts and a sample CRQ, let's look at some practice selected response questions to show you how those concepts can appear on the test. If you want a lot of practice questions, you can click the free practice test below. Now for the questions. We'll see one from each of our categories. The American Revolution was fomented by colonists' desire for which of the following? Greater military autonomy, representation in Parliament, the right to elect the sovereign, administrative funding from Parliament. Now, let me admit something to you. At first, I thought this was the right answer, but with the immediate answer feedback I got while studying, I see that this is the one we want. That's right. The colonists believed they were being unfairly taxed by Parliament, a body in which they had no representation. They initially sought for elected representation as a means of being heard. All right, let's move into world history and take a look at the next question. Which of the following best describes the primary goal of the first French explorers of North America? France wanted to discover a western sea route to trade with Asia, also known as the Northwest Passage. All right, our government category is up next. Which amendment abolished slavery in America? The 1st, 13th, 16th, or the 17th? The correct answer is B. The 13th Amendment, passed in 1865, outlaws the institution of slavery in the United States. It states, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now let's take a look at a geography question. Which of the following best describes why European settlers in California chose to settle near the San Francisco Bay Area? Social Studies exam pro tip: water is a big deal. One of the most important features when settling a new land is the creation of a harbor, so that goods can be shipped in and out of the region. So, when the first settlers arrived in California, one of their highest priorities was establishing a harbor for trade, and the San Francisco Bay Area is a natural harbor. That means the correct answer is A. One more to go. Let's look at an economics question. Which of the following is not a component of GDP calculation? GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. Consumption expenditures, government expenditures, investment, or income taxes. This time, the best was saved for last. Choice D is correct. Income taxes are used to calculate government surplus or deficit, but not GDP. Now, that's just a small sliver of practice questions to give you an idea about how these concepts are assessed on the test. Congratulations on finishing the video. If you found it helpful, give it a like. There is still plenty more to learn. Did you know that our study guide has 402 practice questions? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the Praxis Middle School Social Studies exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 study guide. It has hours of videos, so you can watch or listen while doing chores. It is test aligned, so you know precisely what you need to study. And it has hundreds of practice questions, so you can be sure you're ready. So click the link below right now to get started. If I had to coach something, it'd be badminton.